Today I'm going to discuss LEGO and Thermovalve's switch to Agile StageGate and the key success factors they found with it. So starting with LEGO, they had a gradual Agile rollout. They started with Agile in the development phase and later expanded into the implementation phase. Their phased approach helped them reduce risk and encourage organizational learning. Agile is not something that is easy for all employees to get, and so I think that as they did the starting with the development and later expanding into implementation, that was one of their success factors. Another success factor was they did the sprints, daily stand-up, scrum boards, and prioritized backlog. And one of their success factors was that they embedded Agile into StageGate, specifically the development stage, and they didn't replace all of StageGate. So they still were able to keep all of the important go/kill decisions for management. Two other success factors was one, the customer involvement. This was the one that was most heavily talked about in Robert G. Cooper's book. He specifies how the teachers and students participated in trials and reviews, and the LEGO employees had continuous validation from the customers because of that. And because of that customer involvement, which was a key success factor, it also helped the team in cultural benefits. The improved communication and problem resolution solved the main issue that LEGO was facing. And because of this, it describes in the book that the teams felt secure and new problems could be resolved the next day thanks to the Agile and having the daily stand-up. Next, looking at Thermovalve. So in this example, it specifies how Agile was used in all of the stages. And because of this, they had an iterative design. Requirements evolved through each stage, and this was part of what their success factor. In the book, it specifies how some of the project leaders said that market success they don't think would have been possible without this hybrid Agile StageGate approach. One of their key success factors was that they didn't use a fixed backlog, but they used evolving requirements. And because they had evolving requirements, as they continued through the StageGate process, each time doing Agile through the stage, it specifies how hardware decisions had to be frozen earlier than software decisions. But this was still part of their success because hardware would be frozen, but if the hardware wasn't perfect or something like that, they could still fix the issue with software later. And because of this, and again, because of this hybrid approach, they were able to have customer integration, and they had testing that lasted entire sprints, again, which is not typical of Agile, but it was one of their key success factors. The last thing is that the management and the culture, the leadership accepted the uncertainty of the stage gates, and due to this kind of cultural tolerance for ambiguity, it ended up being a success because of all the reasons previously mentioned. And so as we look at the comparison between these two, I just found it interesting that they had similarities in the fact that the StageGate remained and they used Agile within the stages that they needed. They had iterative development and their feedback was much more heavily involved than a lot of typical Agile only projects. They had improved communication, faster problem resolution, and productivity gains, all from doing this hybrid Agile StageGate. But I also thought it was noteworthy that they did do things differently. Thermovalve had hardware constraints, and so they were forced to put harder deadlines on requirements. And LEGO was almost always just a flexible, iterative approach. And for the requirements and management, Thermovalve had the flexible requirements specifically in the backlog, and they had tolerance for ambiguity. But Lego still prioritized the backlog even though they were iteratively testing. So I think this was just another examples of the fact that Agile stage gate can be used in many ways. And in these two companies' examples, they were able to use it in ways that benefited their specific product, and they were able to have success. Thanks. That's it.